Hey, Raul.
Hey Ryan.
Doing?
All right, how are you?
Good. I hear noises in your.
Oh, you do? I have this headphone on. I live on a busy street,
Oh,
so there's always traffic
okay.
going on, and I'm also near a light.
Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe I hear the light. How interesting. We were just talking about sounds we hear in our environment, and I thought that was a nice transition into what you do with your work. Why don't we get started with just the doodling, and then we can talk a little bit about like your experiences, doing field recordings. That might be a way to start.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
sure.
So
Yeah.
here we go with the technology. Are you going to do the sideways thing or the vertical thing?
I'm gonna stay normal, vertical, with
Okay.
this the same vantage point that we have.
Okay, cool. Then I
Yeah.
will do the same. So as people know, Doodle with Me is 30 minutes of drawing together, no pressure to draw. And when we say draw, we mean you can draw anything that you like. Um, oh, oh, okay. And doodling is aimless mark making. And the whole idea is to not strive for anything, but just to do what you do with your doodle. Oh my goodness, that is so corny. So, the other thing we do is we like to just kind of chat, and the chat tends to go all over, and that's okay too. It's the end of a week. We don't have to work at anything, so hopefully not. I mean, some of us do work on Saturdays, like myself. But anyway, so
Yeah.
feel free to join. Yeah. So I guess what I remember is the first Doodle with Me I did um, was about monsters. I think
Yes.
Mary Beth was on that one.
I was there too. I remember that one.
And the thing that I remember was that afterwards you sent me pictures of your
Yes.
monster you drew, and then I also remember that then you did a live video of yourself drumming.
Yes.
It was like I was just like, wow, Instagram Live is just like full of people doing all kinds of things. It was really fun. So that was a fun night for me.
Yeah, that was a fun
Yeah.
night.
And so, tell me a little bit about the project. So you're recording what are called coqui, is that right?
Yeah,
Coqui,
so coqui,
coqui.
I thought it was really interesting and just a really nice coincidence that you had titled this Snap, Crackle, and Pop because those are automatopoeias.
Uh
And then
huh.
it just so happens that coqui, the name coqui is a automatopoeia for the sound that these little frogs that are endemic to Puerto Rico make.
I
And
see.
so they were named by the Taino, who were the people on the island when the Europeans arrived. And so the frog sounds very much like the name coqui
I
coqui.
see.
Or I'll try to whistle the sound. It's like
Okay.
so that's the name and
Uh
then
huh.
the sound. So it was very fitting. Snap, crackle, and pop being this titled this. But last year I spent a week in Puerto Rico. I went to Utuado, which is around the center of the island,
Uh huh.
up in the mountains, and I was able to record just hours of coquis, you know, singing or doing their call,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like being in the middle of an orchestra playing
Uh
and
huh.
hearing the sound just completely surrounding me. I was fortunate enough that the area I was in wasn't too built up, so there was a lot of space to
Mm.
wander and kind of like set a microphone up and
Uh
get
huh.
these recordings.
Uh huh.
And
Cool.
yeah, it was like kind of like around the top, towards the top of a mountain, and it oversaw this valley, and the valley just would fill with fog every morning, and then eventually once the fog dissipates, you could see the river and kind of like the reservoir down there.
What
And
did I was
yeah.
just curious, what is that? What does it do to you? Like you said, you did it for hours. What does it do
Hmm.
to you to be listening to? So you're just listening to the frogs for hours. Did you have an altered state, or does something does something happen to you like mentally, so that afterwards, you start hopping, or when you're going back to your place, or I'm just wondering kind of
Yeah.
what it mentally might do to you.
So yeah, I was, we were staying in a tent actually
Mm.
outside. It was like a very nice, sturdy tent with a
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a floor. But it's the sound stays with you. Even when I'm editing and working on my, the recordings and just setting the stuff up. After I stop listening to it, I walk away, and then later on at night, it's almost like it's ringing in my ears, and I think to myself, well, this isn't tinnitus, because I know what tinnitus is like because I have that.
Do you now?
uh,
I had tinnitus too, so we'll talk about that. But
oh yeah, I
yeah,
think
wow,
everyone has a form of it, right? It's like just
interesting.
those frequencies that we hear from our body, but it was almost like that kind of sensation that just stayed and lingered within my subconsciousness. But the thing is, it's different from an earworm, right? It's not like a song that gets stuck in your head that's on loop over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. This
Mm-hmm.
was just this other, I guess I would say like bandwidth that was just resonating with the sounds of the coqui that just stayed with me, because it's almost like they're in this like higher frequency range, and then when you're in the habitat and just surrounded by it, it kind of fills up that space, like almost like air, kind of like maybe like a pink noise or something.
Mm.
And that's stuck with me, and even to this day, like it'll just pop up every now and then, almost as
So,
if it was stored in some kind of like hard drive or something.
oh, interesting. Does it pop up during times where you're extra relaxed, like when you're going to be going to bed, or does it pop up in times when like you're stressed out or something?
I would say it's mostly relaxed times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it more like a memory, like a memory sound?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's a good way
interesting.
to think of it. Hmm.
I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I just
No,
was
that's okay.
trying to
I
figure it
mean,
out.
that's part of the project, is the idea of memory, and how the sound is a way to evoke memories and allow us to travel from one place to another
Now,
through that as a vessel.
do you have memories that are connected to the coqui? Is that how we say it?
Yeah, so it's a coqui.
Coqui, sorry.
Um, yeah, I have a lot of fond memories from when I was a kid growing up, going to visit my grandparents. My grandmother would collect all the little tchotchkes of coqui figurines. So they kind of
Ah,
like, you know, they manifest into the other things and the culture and the folklore and things like that.
uh-huh.
And that was one of the things that, she had all these little figurines, and they're, as a kid, they kind of remind me a little bit of like Kermit the Frog from the Muppets, growing up in Florida and just like watching TV
Right.
or, um, so I was really attracted to them, and just listening to them, and then having it be something that was different from what I would experience, when I would go back home.
Uh-huh.
It just made it that much more like fantastical for me as a child.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
are they little? Are they little or are
they're
they big?
they're very small. There's like 17 different species that live in Puerto Rico, and then there are many more throughout the Caribbean.
Uh-huh.
And they vary in size, but they tend to be very small. And I think the largest one's maybe about the size of a quarter.
Oh,
So they're
wow.
kind of hard to find. I was lucky enough to find a couple that were hanging out in a banana tree, and that was pretty fun to see them.
It's so fun to hear you describe it, because I feel kind of like I can see them and I can kind of think a little bit what it might have been like. And it did make me think about when, because I grew up at the beach,
Hmm.
grunion hunting. We would go out in the night, and grunions, which were these little, kind of these hard little fish, would come in to spawn. So you'd go out at night and you try to catch them in your hands while they were coming in.
Oh
They were
yeah.
like a slimy, they were a good teenage thing because they were kind of slimy, and you'd go there with your friends in the dark, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, that connection to, it's not like a cat or a dog. That connection to other kinds of animals that can be part of your life.
Hmm.
It's really interesting to me. That um, that I think a lot of times, I don't know. I'm just thinking in our culture, we tend to like the furrier things and the things that maybe are more um,
Oh
that
yeah.
closer to look more like us. It's a
Right.
bias. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's true, but I just kind of was thinking about that because I remember one time I was talking to a, uh, a spider expert when I used to work at
Mm.
the Smithsonian, and he would talk about people's aversion to spiders, but how, you know, it's just because we're so used to, we want to see humans want to see themselves reflected in the way animals look.
Yes.
And so if it's not doesn't look like a cute, human baby or close to it, then we're not going to be into it. But I
Right.
love frogs. I think frogs, and I actually I was thinking about how people also collect different like animals that they relate to,
Hmm.
and how my partner, we have his mother's collection of owls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and how owls are really pretty cool too. Are there other animals that you've recorded, or is this
Um.
was the only project based on animals?
Yeah. So far, this was the start of working with animals in that way, like recording animals. And it's actually, I got to speak with a herpetologist from the Philadelphia Zoo who studies frogs and is also Puerto Rican and actually studies the coqui, Dr.
Oh, cool.
Carlos. And he like really uh, just like shared so much knowledge with me and some of the technology used for studying like what they like bioacoustics
Uh-huh.
and then that just really inspired me to get into more of recording and using that software to then kind of like be able to generate visuals and different kinds of visualizations and then work with that material to kind of uh, make pictures essentially
Yeah.
from the sounds, which has been pretty fun because before that, I don't know if you remember, I was doing a lot of tape loops and
Right.
working with that as a material, and and that's kind of funny because that's in a way like I enjoyed seeing the mess of the loops and how those were just like these giant messes of spaghetti,
Uh-huh.
and and that kind of had this other visual element that was going on, and I don't know. It's just interesting to see the different ways that sounds can lend themselves to manifest in different ways. Like whether it's like a wad of like tape as a thing that could look like a messy drawing, or
Mm.
a more maybe like analytical approach to studying a sound and then generating an image from that. It's I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It's pretty interesting to me,
Yeah.
anyways.
So there's something about the sounds, or it's something about the equipment and the sounds together, uh,
Yeah,
that
yeah. I
you
get
feel. Yeah. Tell me
yeah. I
more
just
about that.
No, I just get nerdy with it. Yeah, it's kind of like fulfills my inner geek uh,
Yeah.
mode with stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, recording animals is fun because like having done this project with the coqui frogs, I also was learning a little bit more about the frogs here and just outside of Philadelphia, and we have a frog that's called the spring peepers. And I was out on a drive in the country a few weeks ago, and I got to hear their sounds, and it
Uh-huh.
was much different than the coqui. but still had this kind of high pitched frequency range. And another call, it's springtime, so it's mating season for them, and
Okay.
the sound only lasts for a handful of weeks in early April and late March.
But
So
now,
it's
why only for they don't sing any other time, or?
yeah, that it's just this time of year, or well, we've passed it now, but that's my understanding so far. I'm still learning more about that species.
Wow. So they're quiet. They're quiet the whole year until it comes time to mate, and then
Yes.
they chime in. Wow.
Yeah.
So someone in our studio audience has asked, is there a place where they can hear your recordings?
Oh yeah. So I have sounds on my website, but then I also have an album of coqui recordings on Spotify that
Uh-huh.
people can stream, and it's about uh, a total of 44 to 45 minutes of sound. There's 2 tracks on the album, and it's pretty, for me, nice to just play. I've heard some people were playing it just to get a sense of nature, you know, for those that weren't able to access it as easily.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and it's also a great component in that it's because we're still in quarantine. Some people may
mhm.
not be able to see the show, so they can still get a
Oh
piece of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, and then um, yeah, there's a link tree thing on my profile on Instagram. It has a lot
Mm-hmm.
of links,
Mm-hmm.
and you can listen to those sounds there. And then yeah, there's plant music too that people can listen to.
Oh, tell me about the plant music. How does that work?
So the plant music works by it's kind of, I think of it as translating, but there are these like EKG kind of sensors that are usually used to measure heart rhythms and things like that. And in this case, there was a group here in Philadelphia that developed this little box called a MIDI sprout, and it's based off of like open source Arduino kind of programming,
Uh-huh.
and it'll take that information from the EKG and then translate those electrical signals into MIDI signals,
Oh,
which
interesting.
yeah, so that's musical instrument digital interface or something messages,
Now
and
that
yeah,
okay. That makes me think it's more of a human plant collaboration
it
because
is
because when you think about it, the plant really isn't having its voice in the pure form because the humans are kind of retranslating it, right?
right, right, exactly. So it's taking one form of measurement and turning it into another, and
Uh-huh.
then we like that's what I was saying, like a translator. So it's like then we're giving a sound to that information, and then that sound is essentially then becomes what I call like the plant music or things like that. So I mean,
Do you,
yeah.
do you think it's more like a do you think it's more like a portrait of human beings pretending to be plants or a portrait of plants pretending to be human beings?
It could be both. Maybe it's the plants. I think they know a lot more about what's going on than we do sometimes.
Yeah. That's what fascinates me about this too. And I was also thinking when you were talking about the frogs, the shape of the frog's body and its mouth and probably its throat and the fact that it makes those noises based on the body it has, right? It's not like it
Yes.
just makes those noises because it wants to, because it's chosen to make those noises. It really can't make any other kind of noise. And yet, I don't know. And I just think about the relationship between a body and sound and
Mm-hmm.
how different bodies will make different sounds. Maybe this sounds like super simple,
It could be.
but it's not something I think about very often.
Yeah. yeah, it's like ourselves trying to train or learn how to sing, where we have to exercise our voice, right?
Right. And I guess if they're not effective at singing, they're going to have a hard time attracting a mate, right?
Yeah.
So
And
you
that's
really
the
got to
other,
sing for it, right?
yeah, that's another interesting thing that I learned about the coqui is that in order for them to connect with their potential, mate, they have to be literally on the same like wavelength. So it's about the frequency ranges that they're connecting with each other, and that's kind of interesting.
So did you get a sense that at some point it was almost like a language that you could you learn that language to communicate with them?
Yeah, I think there was part of that as a language, but then I thought of it a little bit more like if they are to connect with each other, they would have to be on the same channel to be able to listen or find each other as a pair for the cookie specifically.
Oh, it's about the frequency
Hmm.
that creates the attraction, and each
Yeah,
frog is able to create a different frequency that attracts the appropriate mate on the same frequency.
yeah, that's my understanding of it. I could be
Wow.
wrong, but so far that's what I've gathered
Wow, that's really interesting.
from. Yeah, it is, and that's why I was like, oh well, they have to be on the same wavelength.
Now, and that's different than what was going on with the plants, which was trying to kind of
Oh yeah.
give plants a voice. But
Hmm.
plants do plants make noises to mate? That doesn't really make sense, does it? Because they're not.
Well, I know that there are plants that have adapted to listening, uh, to kind of like enact defense mechanisms, right?
Uh huh. Huh.
For instance, like the sound of a caterpillar crunching on leaves.
Right.
There's certain plants that have been able to adapt to learn what that is, and then kind of release a toxin or something to defend themselves
Oh,
from these
interesting.
caterpillars.
You know what's interesting too about that is, our my landlord is redoing the some major plumbing pipes that go from his house to our house.
Oh,
Um, so he lives in the front house and we live in the back house, and there's a big pipe, I guess, that takes the water where he shares his water with us in order for us to flush the toilet, right?
uh
So,
huh.
uh, and when he was digging up the old pipes that he'd laid a long time ago when he first built the house, he noticed that there was this hard calcification, not really calcification, but it was almost like um, a root that had grown around the water pipe in a
Oh,
way that completely like melded with it, right? It was almost like he
yeah.
couldn't cut through it. And um, I think it's because actually the tree roots can actually hear the water, and they can be drawn towards it, and then
Yes.
siphon off the water. Especially in the desert, that's really an important thing.
Oh, yeah.
I just found that interesting. I mean, it made me think about trees as these things that are also um, like interacting with human things, and they're becoming again like interconnected in a way and
Oh, yeah.
changing. So the pipes don't look like pipes; they look more like bad alien sets from a Star
Yeah.
Trek.
Yeah.
kind of kind of like lumpy paper mache or plaster, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes me think of these trees down the block that um they're growing under the power lines. So they have to adjust and adapt to that like frequency range or coming from the power line, so they end up just splitting and they grow around the power lines.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you've seen that around, it's
I don't know. I think in the desert it doesn't happen as much because I think, plants are just happy if they can keep growing here.
yeah,
I don't know if they're reaching out toward the power lines, but that's an interesting thing too, because we've been talking in some ways about plant frequencies and animal frequencies, and then the
hmm
technology being able to capture that. So that's really interesting because we can kind of see that all around us. I mean, if we start
yeah.
to think about it, yeah. So did this project kind of inspire you in new ways, or did it get you to be interested in other kinds of things?
Yeah, right now I'm looking at making more of these kind of sound pictures. That's what I'm thinking of them as, and just kind of seeing what the similarities or differences might be from generating these using the software that the herpetologist from the Philadelphia Zoo shared with
Mm-hmm.
me. It's called Raven Labs, and it was developed to study animal sounds, specifically
Uh-huh.
bird calls.
Uh-huh.
So I've gone out and done some field recordings at Cape Henlopen, which is a state park in Delaware, and it's a really cool space because it's on the beach, but then there's also these really amazing sand dunes that are just, I don't know, just they don't look like something that I've seen before in this landscape. And then there's, since it's a state park, there's a lot of nature there and bird sounds and the oceans there. And then it was formerly a fort for World War II. So there's these old watchtowers that are, a few 100 feet tall that kind of are just like spaced out throughout the park were used to surveil the Cape, and it's kind of an eerie space, but magical, and there's a lot of potential there, I think. But
Uh-huh. And
so yeah,
and what was making it eerie for you again?
so it's the remnants of the war, like the fort,
Oh, so it's kind
and
of like
then
a ruin almost.
yeah, so there's those ruins, and then as you go through different trails, there's these underground kind of like bunkers with
Mm-hmm.
these very large, ominous doors that kind of lead to somewhere that we don't know because we can't really access them. So there's this like almost like a Stranger Things vibe from that
Yeah, yeah.
TV show. It's kind of happening there, and so it's a good place that I like to visit often and explore, and then take recordings from there.
And you go there by yourself, or do you usually travel with other people?
I'll travel with other people. I'll go with my wife,
Uh-huh.
and we'll go camping there, and then sometimes we'll invite friends to camp with us, and then there's a lot of places that kind of just wander and get lost around there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just kind of spend a day doing that and bring my recording equipment with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was just thinking, I don't think I would want to do that by myself. I would like to have company in a situation like that. I've just watched
Yeah.
way too many horror films, so I automatically go into something jumping out at me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, time has jumped out at us. So
Oh
we are,
yeah.
yeah, it goes by quick, but
So fast.
yeah. How did it go with the doodling?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have this other page I filled up pretty well here.
So you like to try to fill up the page with your doodles?
It varies, I I have like my go-to kind of doodles that I do that fluctuate between um like little, I think of them like telephone cords,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from back when we had telephone lines and
Yeah.
not everything was wireless.
Right. Oh, you're so nostalgic.
Oh, very nostalgic. I love it.
Yeah,
Yes, yearning for
my,
the simple.
mine tend to be, I think they kind of are clouds. They tend to make very cloudy shapes,
Uh-huh.
little, or farty shapes, maybe. Sometimes they get a little like an intestine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's just how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. So I'm going to
Okay.
change. Yeah, but let's see. All right. Oh,
Yeah.
the sun is setting over here. Well, thanks so much, Raul. It was
Thanks
great
for
to,
inviting me.
yeah, and it was great to hear just more about what you think about and things that you're interested in, and it's great to doodle with you. So,
Yeah, it was
thanks.
fun.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. And just to let everybody else know, thanks for joining. It's always great to have people here, and hopefully you all got to do some doodling and some aimless listening. And um, we have a whole next month with lots of people to continue doodle with me. So I was thinking to myself, I'll just do this for 50. We're almost at 20. I'll do this up to 50, and then I'm going to double check to see if everyone still wants to go with it, and we'll just keep trying to do them every Friday because I love doing it, and I love having you all here and us kind of doing this together. So thank you, and thanks, Raul, and we'll see each other next Friday in May. All right? Oh, it is May. Duh. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
And now, okay.